What's up, guys? I'm Nick. This is Rendezvous with the Ramey family, and welcome to Millerton Lake. I'm going to talk about my experiences on the lake, kind of what I've learned in the over half a decade I've been sailing around here. I'm also going to talk about what it entails to have a boat on the lake. If you're not one of my followers, definitely take this moment to hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications. It helps me a lot. Maybe the algorithm in YouTube put this video in front of you for a reason. Maybe you happen to mention putting your boat on the water in a lake. Maybe you're just looking for some unsolicited advice from me about whether or not you should put your boat in the water full time, or maybe you should just keep putting it in and out at the ramp every time you want to go fishing or sailing or something. So stick around, I'm going to answer some questions. Okay, what's my experience here? So I've been sailing for well over half a decade. A lot of it's right here at Millerton Lake. This is where I fell in love with boats. This is where I fell in love with sailing, and it's 15 minutes from my house, so it makes perfect sense.
Lots of birds.
I also got ASA 101 through 104 certified, and as did my wife.
Put it on the guide and then pull. Yeah, that's nice.
I taught my wife and my girlfriend and my son how to sail boats right here on this lake too. You can actually attach that to down there. I was on the Chesapeake Bay in a beautiful sun odyssey, but 5 days learning the ins and outs of everything sailing. I sailed from Norfolk, or as they like to call it, Norfolk. I sailed from Norfolk, Virginia, all the way to Cape Charles. Putted around the Chesapeake Bay quite a bit. Had a great time in Virginia. That video's right here. You can check that out. And then I also deckhanded for some people I met on Crew Bay. I've been up into the Pacific Northwest quite a few times. I pushed out of the Juan de Fuca, the Puget Sound, out into the Pacific Ocean.
Maybe a mile around us in any direction because of this fog.
Down the Pacific Northwestern coast, past, to about Astoria, and then turned inboard and went over the Columbia River Bar. That video is also kind of crazy. That one's right there, especially since the Columbia River Bar is notorious for killing people. And these are the conditions Coast Guard just reported. Visibility unlimited. I can't see more than a quarter mile in front of me, but whatever. We are there's the buoy, red right returning, so we're right where we're supposed to be. So all we gotta do is not run into any traffic or any swells. But other than that, most of my experience has been right here in Millerton Lake. I'm telling you what, putting a boat on a lake and sailing it around a lake is much different than putting it in the ocean. So I'm gonna kind of go into specifically what it's like to own a boat and be a boat owner on the lake.
It's that Millerton Lake snot. It's a nest. Well, from what?
And if you live around the Millerton Lake area, definitely gonna want to see this if you're considering anything with a boat around here. Okay, so first off, Millerton Lake is kind of hiding some serious history. This is what I would call bonus content. It doesn't have much to do with sailing, and if you want to skip through the history of Millerton Lake, right there on the bottom, there's different chapters. Just go to the next one. But if you do like history, just like I like history, there's some cool stuff here. Millerton Lake used to just be a river. And when it was a river, the original settlers for Fresno settled here. And just over my left shoulder, there's a graveyard basically full of the remains of all of the original settlers that passed away. Before the town was abandoned, the dam was built. I mean, the original courthouse for Fresno is just past the dam nowadays. So if you're sailing around Millerton, if you're putting around in a fishing boat, if you get your depth sounder out there to when it's about 200 or almost 300 feet deep in the summer, there's a whole town that's been abandoned that's still under there, and you can check it out. It's actually a pretty cool spot. Millerton Lake is a state park. Like Huntington Lake and Shaver Lake are higher up in elevation, and all of that water sources trickles down into Millerton. And I don't know if Shaver or Huntington are state parks, but Millerton Lake definitely is. And with that comes some pros and cons, and we're going to go into that just a little bit. But it does mean that the state park police is the one patrolling the waters. They're getting towed by the State Park Patrol. Madera County Sheriff, you're going to see fire helicopters using this as a water resource to fight all the fires out here. The marina out here has a contract with the state park. And the marina out here on Millerton Lake is not the marina that you may have heard was out here the last 10 or 15 years. This is under new ownership. Millerton Marina is stepping up its game. They are putting stuff out here that is absolutely game changers. There's a food truck, there's new docks, there's new slips, there's eating areas, there's even a live stage for live music. You can get your fuel here, you can get your ice here, you can get your snacks here, you can get a lot of stuff here. So whether you launch at the public boat ramp or you have your own slip in Winchell Cove, Millerton Marina is definitely a spot you're going to want to putt on over to and tie up to the dock and check out. Okay, so is this the right lake for you? Is it the right lake for me? I mean, it's 15 minutes from my house. At any point in time, I can just go down to the lake, jump on the boat, and it very quickly became my happy place. I have an actual sailboat. It's a Coronado 25. Learning how to sail, I think the best place to do it would be on a lake like this. It's just way more forgiving when you make mistakes. If you ground that boat on a rock, if you punch a hole in your keel, you take on water, you break something, your rudder falls off, you can get on your cell phone and text the marina. They'll come get a jet ski and they'll just yank you back to the slip. It's no big deal. You can have your steep learning curve, or however hard it is for you to learn something new. You can have that here and not get hurt, not drown. You know, the only thing you really got to worry about is an electrical fire. So as long as your wiring is good to go on your boat, like, the chances of you making a tragic mistake are slim to none. That was probably the biggest thing. It was safer. You know, it's just a good spot to learn. Plus, there's a bunch of sailors here that race. I mean, the sailboat races, they're called beer can races, where they're kind of racing for beers. And it happens all summer. Every Wednesday, there's yacht races out here. And if you want to learn how to sail, man, get on a crew for a racing boat. So I want to talk about the water levels. Being that this place is dammed off, which is the only reason why this lake exists, is Millerton Dam, the state of California controls how much water is kept here at any given point in time. The marina has nothing to do with it. And it's really frustrating because California's been in a drought. Politics is no place on my channel. I'm never going to get into politics. But I do need to touch on, only because it has something to do with boating and sailing. Whether you think droughts are happening because of climate change or not, whether you think the current leadership is pumping our water out to the ocean just to create a drought, it's irrelevant. Here's what's actually happening. If you talk to anyone that doesn't have a dog in this fight but actually works in the water department or the agricultural department here in California, they're not elected officials. They don't have a talking point they have to stick to. They don't have a political party they have to attack. They just have a job to do. They'll tell you the snow runoff from the Sierra Nevadas filters down into Millerton Lake, and it gets stored here until it gets pumped out to the farmers. And it goes, if you look at the dam, they'll let out water into two different channels. One of them goes right down the river, and that river refills the natural water aquifers under the ground. And the problem is those water aquifers can only absorb so much water at once. You can't just flood the valley and we'll get all of our underground water aquifers refilled. You know, it took like 1 million years to fill them up, and we drained them in 80 years. So we have a serious problem in California. So because we don't have enough water storage, period, I mean, we should probably have 10 or 15 more dams than what we do, huge bodies of water than what we do. Because our water aquifers are empty, we can only fill them up so much, and then we have to pump the rest of the farmers, and then anything that they can't take, we literally have to pump out to the ocean because we can't store it. That's the gist of it. That's the truth. This place is constantly changing in water level. As a boater or a sailor, your favorite fishing spot, your favorite place to go drop anchor, could be significantly different. It could be 30 feet deep last week. It could be 100 feet deep, 2 months from now. In the winter, it's usually down low. They've spent all winter draining this thing, feeding farmers, refilling the aquifers, and as much as they can, and then pumping the rest out to the ocean to make enough room for the snow runoff that's going to be happening in the summer. And this happens consistently. Last winter, my boat, in its slip, was sitting on the mud. I mean, I think I have a 3-foot draft on Risque, and my boat was sitting 14 or 15 inches over the mud. I mean, the dock, the marina itself was sitting on the mud. It was gross. So you're not backing your boat out. You pay for a slip year round. You're not backing your boat out and going to do anything. You're literally blocked in because of the low water level. But I paid for it. The marina has nothing to do with that. The state of California did that. And you don't get a say in what the state of California does with its water, believe it or not. Right now, the lake is as full as it's ever been. There's water gushing over the dam. And my boat, sitting in its slip in the exact same spot, it's in 140 feet of water. 4 months ago, 14 inches of water. Right now, as of today, 145 feet of water. You'll never see that in the ocean, ever. And it's something that changes where you're gonna anchor and how you're gonna relax a little bit on the water. You never know how much anchor chain you're gonna have to have on board, or and you definitely can't be sailing without a depth sounder. You have no idea if you're over a tree or a rock that, you know, was exposed yesterday and it's not exposed now. Okay, the other thing that you have to contend to out here is the heat. The heat is like, it's a different type of heat. So if you live in the South, you're in like, you know, Louisiana or Florida or something, you know, that's hot, that's humid, you can cut through the air, you're sweating in the shower. This is a dry heat. In some ways it's more manageable, but in other ways it can be worse. Like if you're walking around Louisiana in the middle of the summer, your clothes are wet. And actually after a while, when you start to adjust to it, it kind of cools you off the way a swamp cooler does. You're covered in kind of like a layer of dampness, and the wind hits it and it kind of cools you off. Out here, there's no dampness, there's no nothing. I mean, people that chain smoke all year don't smoke in the summer because they don't even want to go outside. You're just hot. Your clothes are hot, your skin is hot, your hair feels hot. It's terrible. And then what happens is you're like, let's go to the lake and beat the heat. So you get out there, you get on your boat, and one, there's a good chance that this place is on fire. It's California. We don't do brush management because we cater to environmentalists who are really worried about the whatever tree frog and the spotted owl and all this stuff. So they basically made any type of brush management or forest upkeep illegal because they don't want to kill this owl. And then what happens is PG&E was basically forced to take like half their budget and go into solar or green energies, and they didn't have the resources to do it. So what they do, they cut the funding from their maintenance department and started using that money to go green. And then sure as shit, in a state that doesn't do forest management and doesn't do debrushing of any sort, has a power company that's not maintaining their power lines, all for the environmentalists, this place burns. And then those same people will get on the news and they'll look you dead in the camera and be like, it's climate change. And I'm like, it's crazy how climate change stops right at the freaking borders of California. Those fires burned everything. I've been on this lake where I was right in the middle of the water. It was right in the middle of summer. The sky was orange and you couldn't see the land because there was a layer of smoke. And the helicopters were coming in here and pulling water out of this lake and dumping it on what used to be Shaver. And now the entire community of Shaver's burnt down, including all the owls and including all the frogs that they wanted to save. And however you feel about that is irrelevant. If you have a boat, whether you're on the left or the right of the political spectrum, that's going to be a factor here. The heat is so intense that you're going to go down to the lake and thinking you're going to beat it. And if you're on a boat in the middle of the water, it almost cooks you a little bit more. So you need to have a fan. You need to have some type of bimini or dodger or ability to go below deck. If you have a pontoon boat and you're just sitting out in the sun, you're not going to be out there more than half the day unless you're in the water half the time. This place gets burning hot. So it's a really good thing that Millerton Marina is stepping its game up, because you can absolutely come back in, tie up, grab a burger, grab some more ice, grab a nice cold drink, and then go back out. Don't underestimate the heat out here. Don't underestimate the changing water level. The other thing you're going to contend with is the park hours. This is one of the biggest factors for me. It's my biggest pet peeve. Winter hours, the park shuts down at 7 p.m. You better not be here at 7:01. In the summer, it stays open until 10. You got a lot more sunlight hours. I mean, it basically stays light enough until almost like 8:30, 8:45. If your car is here in Winchell Cove at 7:01 and the park hours say 7, rest assured you're getting a ticket. Like, it's going to happen. That guy wants to go home. I don't know what the deal is, but he'll lock you in the park. There's a gate that they close. They'll just chain it up and lock you. Your ass is locked in here. You're going to pay that ticket. It's your fault. You were here after posted park hours. They don't tell you when the hours change. You drive by this tiny little sign, and if you don't pay attention to that sign, and I learned the hard way, trust me, I mean, I never even noticed that sign existed until after I got my first ticket. It also means that you can't live on board. They don't want anybody on this water moving around at night, period. If you think you're gonna put your boat in the water and you're gonna like stealth camp or like live on board, like it's not gonna happen. When I wanna camp overnight here, I have to get dropped off at the marina. I can't just park my car there and come get it, go back to it in the morning, because they'll, like I said, you're gonna get a ticket. I'll Uber down here, I'll have a friend drop me off, and then we'll all go out on the boat. We'll anchor down around the cove somewhere, and I just leave my lights on. There's no full-time sheriff out here. There's no park police out here at night. There's no one to come help you at night. They want everyone off the water and out of the park by sundown, basically, because they don't want to have to come get you, and they don't want to staff. They don't want to pay the staff to do an overnight shift, I don't think. Okay, so here's the big question. It's to get a slip or not get a slip. Here's how slips work in Millerton. I don't know how they work in Huntington or Shaver, and I don't know how they're gonna work in your lake, but I can tell you it's probably gonna be similar to this, okay? When you get a slip, you're paying the marina to store your boat for X amount of time. Here are your options. You can do like a temporary slip for like a week thing. Those are quite pricey. It's based on the foot. That's the most expensive deal you're gonna get. Sometimes people just do that to park their boat here for a little bit while they get something else situated. Then you have your month to month, which is the second most expensive, again by the foot. And then you have your like 6 months out of the year will be here, and then 6 months in dry storage. That's kind of affordable. We're gonna go into that one a little bit more. And then the other one, of course, is to pay for a year-round slip, which is what I do. That's the cheapest one, is to just get one year round. Here's where it gets complicated. Is that the right move for you? I'm not sure. I'm retired, so I can come down here whenever I want. I can come down here and still get a full day's worth of motoring around on the lake in the winter when the park hours are shorter. A lot of people can't do that. The right answer for me, to learn how to sail, and because I have an open availability, it's a year-round slip for me, hands down, not even a question. But the average person works, 9 to 5. So if you're working 9 to 5 and you have a year-round slip in the winter, I mean the entire winter, you think you're getting off work at 5, coming down to this boat, turning it on, getting it ready, getting all your stuff in the cooler, shoving off the lines and getting out. By the time you get out to your first anchorage, you basically have to turn around and come back because they're about to shut the park down. There's a little bit of a factor with your schedule and your job. I don't think anyone that has a job should be paying for a slip in the winter at all. To me, it would be pointless. I would just do the 6-month slip. So here's the other question. What kind of boat do you have? That's a huge deal. If you have a power boat, a fishing boat, pontoon boat, it is a totally different ball game to launch that from the public launch ramp than it is to launch a sailboat. You can see people go down and use the public ramp and they just back their trailer in, unwinch it, tie it off to the dock, pull their trailer up, and then park their car, jump on the boat, and they're off. It takes like 10 minutes, max. It's not a big deal at all, and you're in and out of the water. You could be out there all day. You're not paying nobody for nothing. That's amazing. You cannot do that on a sailboat, man. If I wanted to launch my boat every time I'd go sailing, I would never go sailing. Putting that mast up and down is a nightmare. I hate it. I cannot stand it. It stresses me out. It's always a 2-person job. I know that there's ways you can do it by yourself. It's just I don't want to. If I had to launch my boat, put the sail up or put the mast up, attach the boom, attach all the rigging, get everything situated, and then shove off every time, I'd have gone sailing once this year. Once. If you have a sailboat, I'm telling you right now, just get the slip. If you have a power boat, I can't think of a reason why you would pay for a slip unless you just don't have your own trailer. That's it, man. I mean, that's the gist of it. You're gonna deal with the changing water levels. You're gonna deal with the stupid state park hours. You're gonna deal with the heat. And you're gonna deal with the smoke from in the summer from all the wildfires. All that stuff is doable. That's just typical, I wish it wasn't so, but what can I do kind of stuff. No reason to get bent out of shape about it. But the one thing that absolutely I think determines whether or not someone should get a slip, it comes down to what type of boat and what's your availability. If you have a job and a sailboat, I would do a summer 6-month slip. If you are retired with a sailboat, I would do a year-round slip. If you have any other boat besides a sailboat, I would never ever pay for a slip. You can just as easily launch your boat from the public dock, come right over here, tie up after you're done fishing in the morning. Around noon, tie up to the Winchell Cove Marina, Millerton Marina, get a burger, get some ice, hang out, get back on your boat, go fish some more in the evening, and I'd say around 8 o'clock, head back to the public dock, grab your trailer, put it back in the water, put your boat on the trailer, it takes 10 minutes, and be gone. Didn't pay a dime. That's the way to do it. That's how I would do it, and that's what I've learned.